it does beg the question, do you need the extra sort of language for a DAO at all?
DAOs.
Yep.
We had some issues on our DAO bill. You had some thoughts that might make it better. This was the DAO bill that would see DAOs be able to form in Texas under the Unincorporated Nonprofit Association entity structure.
Right.
And you
go on.
I was going to say, because what's funny to me a little bit about this conversation is, and it is not true across, not all states recognize unincorporated nonprofit associations. So I get that in other states that don't have these, it would make a lot of sense. And I actually don't know if Wyoming had an unincorporated nonprofit association.
I don't think they did. No, I think it was just a blockchain LLC.
It kind of makes sense that they did what they did with their DAO bill. But Texas has an unincorporated nonprofit association statute. And so it does beg the question, do you need the extra sort of language for a DAO at all? From my perspective, I think I can make the argument either way.
Yeah.
Yes, it is good to provide additional clarity, particularly if you're dealing with lawmakers and judges who may not be familiar with the system, with what a DAO is, what it's meant to be for. Frankly, you may be dealing with a judge who hasn't really dealt with a lot of unincorporated nonprofit associations. Yeah. Or they have very negative connotations because most of those are homeowners associations.
Or ranchers.
Right. So it's so that is one question, though, is do you really need it? Do you need a bespoke bill? But again, I think for clarity perspective, which is sort of the issue of the day, makes a lot of sense.
Because part of it is also a signaling bill, right? We want DAOs to form in Texas.
And I think that is an important, like a state competition perspective. I totally understand. Yeah. I know that Texas is, all the states are in the race, and Texas is routinely at the front, if not the front runner. We want to continue that 100%, obviously. But it makes a lot of sense to make DAOs feel like they're comfortable here. And again, clarity, from my perspective, is always good. Yeah. But there is a question of whether it is really truly necessary. And what I would say for people that are looking at DAOs that want to do them in other states for whatever reason, there are structures that you can use that are traditional structures that are much more facile and much more easy to apply than you might think they are. Mm-hmm. You can do a corporate wrapper from an LLC, and that's a very traditional, basic structure that would, I think, serve a lot of the purposes that DAOs serve. But that being said, if you wanted to pursue a DAO bill, I've looked at the one that didn't pass, and obviously the definitions and all of that stuff were great. I do question the, you must have 5,000 members.
500.
No, was it 500?
I thought, well.
Did I say 5,500? You're right. Yeah. I'm sorry. Just read this.
Too many.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so, there is some sense of the more you have, the more decentralized you are, maybe the more protected you are. This kind of goes to the point that we were talking about earlier with Binance, and if you're more and the new legislation, the more decentralized you are, the more you can take advantage of safe harbors. But it also raises, I think, practical concerns. It's already hard enough to get a DAO we saw this with the Oki DAO litigation, right? They couldn't muster enough to figure out how to get service and all this stuff, right? And so I do question, and I think that limit should be lower.
Sure.
Because then also, too, it will make it a lot easier for, I have a couple of clients now who want to do DAOs and are interested in exploring things that aren't. Colorado has a version, and I have a client who said, "Oh, we want to do a Colorado one." I said, "Why? Why don't you just do a Texas?" And she had not something that they'd ever thought about. So, if I'm selling something if I'm saying, "Look, this is why it's great to do this in Texas," I think that creates a pretty significant bar to entry, particularly for a company that truly does want to do some kind of social good. That entity may not be capable of getting 500 members right off the bat. And so you're barring a lot of maybe some of the more social good aspects of blockchain technology, which is one of, I think, is a big part of the community from getting in on this benefit. And so that's one consideration that I would throw out there is I think it's great for the sort of big organizations with the labs and the foundations, and we want to kind of take a piece of that market. But I think you lose out on maybe some of your more grassroots that, want to do educational pursuits or charity pursuits or things like that. That creates problems for them, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, it's Amy. Click over here to subscribe. Click over here for more content, and we'll see you next time.